Hello, and welcome to a monumental moment for me personally as a fan of the Eureka Blu-ray label in the UK, the Masters of Cinema collection, and something that I can almost say now is that we have the first 300 spines in the collection now finished almost. In my hand is spine number 300, Black Tuesday. So we're going to talk about that in just a second. But before we do, I think it's spine number 299. No, not that. I think it's spine number what would it be? 295 is currently missing, and this happens a lot. And it reminds me of my own series where I kind of jump the gun in terms of numbering the videos, and I have to kind of work my way backwards, like the Epic Film Challenge too. But Eureka have as of yet not released spine number 295. That'll be coming in 2025, and I don't believe it's been announced for the first 3 months of the year, so it's going to be a while before we get there. And we can have a complete 300 spines collection, or at least I can. Lunatics like me who have all of them. And that will be, it's been confirmed now, the Laurel and Hardy Silent Years Volume 2 set encompassing 1928. Cannot wait for that one. But regardless, we have spine number 300. I really thought it was going to be, well, not that I knew that it was even coming, but once they announced the Louis Feuillet's Complete Crime Serials box set, I thought that was the perfect opportunity to do something massive for spine number 300. And, we like to think that, or at least I do, that this will be an occasion that's marked with something really notable. And then it turns out to be a little scene 1950s film noir with Edward G. Robinson. So I was a little bit like, when they announced this, just in terms of the pomp and circumstance of spine number 300 and everything goes along with it. And ultimately, it's about the film, right? And also, you have a director like Hugo Fregonese who directed this, and it has had kind of a resurgence of interest. There's been some retrospectives of his career, but he was a director who never really stayed in one kind of system. He worked in Hollywood, he worked in Argentina, I believe, and other countries. He worked in like half a dozen countries and made films all over the place. And so maybe that leads to a lack of identity or kind of a stronger legacy, perhaps. But I was thinking about just the Masters of Cinema collection and what that entails and what that kind of signifies and what it calls to mind. And I really feel like, as much as I'm a big fan of it and I have all of them, I almost feel like the title, Masters of Cinema, is in some way like the loftiest of all the boutique labels in terms of the title. The Criterion Collection is the Criterion Collection. They do all the highbrow stuff, they do experimental cinema, avant-garde cinema, and they celebrate the 1000th spine number with a Godzilla box set, which is like, yeah, the original Godzilla is incredible. All the sequels, as far as I'm aware, are not exactly high art. So the Criterion Collection is called the Criterion Collection. It's whatever they want to release, right? But calling something the Masters of Cinema, it feels like, and they led strong with stuff like with something like Murnau and the Sunrise, Fritz Lang with Metropolis and M, and then they got Jean-Luc Godard, and they're doing Italian movies and all this stuff, and then we get down to like was it like The Melting Man or something? Was it the H-Man and Battle in Outer Space? And there's certainly some films in the collection where you kind of think, is that really worth the same kind of caliber and quality as the other ones? And that's where, for me, I don't really feel too precious about it. For me, the MOC label represents discovery and exploration of cinema. It doesn't necessarily represent a certain quality or kind of a benchmark, even though it's called the Masters of Cinema. And very often you are dealing with masters of the craft. Sometimes you're not. But most of the time I'd say that you are. And there's only ever been, I've said this before, in the maybe 200 odd films I've seen from the collection, including some of the short films and other things. I feel like there's maybe two or three that I feel like, it's really the ratio for me in terms of hits and misses is incredibly high. So it's just one of those things. But I was surprised to see this as Spy number 300. One, because it was a regular release, and usually every kind of milestone release is something a bit more notable. Like Spy number 50, we had the Passion of Joan of Arc box set. Nice hard case with a steelbook inside. There's also a regular version, also with a hard box. Incredible release, absolutely stacked, silent classic. Spy number 100 is the Showa box set and 4 films after Showa, which is an unbelievable collection of essential films, and maybe in some ways one of the most important home video releases ever, period. And superior to the Criterion Collection version, though the Criterion Collection version has its own positives as well. It's worth owning both, I would say, but the MOC one is, if you had to pick one, it would be that one. Then there's 150, was the Buster Keaton short films collection. Huge release, absolutely incredible. All of his short films from not even 1920 to 1923, actually from 1917 to 1923, including all the films he made with Fatty Arbuckle. And then there was 200, The Last Waltz, an incredible concert film by Martin Scorsese, absolutely inarguably a master of cinema. And then 250 was more of a regular release with a slipcover, but it was 3 films, The Universal Silence Volume 1, which is a very good set indeed. Anyway, I realize I should be precious about spy numbers, and I should be precious about the films themselves. So Black Tuesday, here it is. Really cool cover here, very minimalist, but kind of summarizes what kind of a film this is and where we start out the film, in prison on death row. So again, directed by Hugo Friganese, starring Edward G. Robinson. He plays Kennelly, King Kennelly. He is this mobster, and obviously Edward G. Robinson, like he originated almost that kind of that classic gangster character on screen. And I always remember the film Little Caesar, and it was like this caricature of like you'd see on like The Simpsons, like, listen to me, kids, see, and it just seems so stupid. Then you watch Little Caesar, and every other thing he's like, wow, now, see, like, and it's like, oh my god, there's not even a character. This is how he performs in this film. But this was 1954, I believe, yes. So decades after Little Caesar and that the early cycle of gangster films from the 1930s, which was like achingly close to like the Al Capone era, and kind of very much lampooning that and commenting on that and reacting to that. But this is in the more of the film noir cycle of Hollywood, and very much a low budgeted picture, which it shows. And it's about a guy, Kennelly, who's on death row, and there's a prison break, and things go awry from there, and it's about really the survival of the criminal. And this film was incredibly like controversial when it came out, especially in the UK. Holy shit, were the BBFC in the 1950s incredibly sanctimonious and just I mean, it speaks to the time period itself, I suppose. But I was listening to some of this stuff in the commentary. It was a very good commentary by, let me get the guy's name here, film noir expert Sergio Angelini. I believe he pronounced it slightly differently. And yeah, well, we'll go with Angelini. I think that's fairly close at least. The host of Tipping My Fedora podcast. We're now getting podcast hosts on our commentaries. No, but it was a very good commentary track. Very well prepared and researched, and lots of interesting contemporary quotes and things from like reviews and people who worked on this thing. And yeah, I really enjoyed a lot of the information in that commentary, and he talks a lot about and reads specifically, again, quoting the notes that the BBFC would send to the studio as far as this film was concerned, and they were saying that they're not going to even accept it into the UK. There's no way this film could even be given a certificate to be rated, let alone an X rating, because of how violent it is and how they believe that it would it would kind of poison the minds of the impressionable youth of the UK if a film like this glorifying gangsters was ever released. And so they banned it. And in even stuff later on, when they eventually decided to release it, there's a sequence at the beginning where Kennelly is inside his prison cell, like this, and a guard goes up to him and he punches him in the stomach. He's like, that's why you don't lead with your stomach. It's just a fun little moment, and it's showing Kennelly kind of asserting himself and kind of asserting dominance, projecting his kind of alpha aura over the situation, and kind of also goading the guard because he wants a fight and he's on death row and he's got nothing to lose. But that itself had to be cut from the film when it was released in the UK eventually in 1955, I believe. And 10 minutes of the film were excised, and it's just crazy to think, because watching it now is very tame. The things that happen are kind of shocking and violent. There's no blood. You know, when people get shot, it's kind of the bang bang and the people fall down, and it feels very theatrical in that sense. But yeah, it's not a particularly grisly film in terms of the violence. It's more the implication, I guess. And I kind of understand. And again, this is like 70 years ago this film was released and made. So it's a different time, a different period. But it still feels a little bit ridiculous that they wouldn't even give this an X rating, you know. And they were so worried about how this sort of violence depicted would be, a danger to society. And you see the kind of stuff that gets released now, and yeah, you really kind of see that, I think it's kind of been proven at this point that it really isn't the media that's kind of making people do these things. Maybe that happens once in a blue moon, but it's certainly not. I mean, given the amount of violence that we see these days in media, you'd think the whole world would be absolutely just violence crazy. And in a sense, it is. Don't get me wrong. But that's not because of Grand Theft Auto, or whatever it is. And well, there was a whole thing about the video game kind of violence and stuff, but it just reminded me of that. So the BBFC were just like really afraid of this film also. They even tried to advise the MPAA, like, be careful with this one, it was what it was. But this film also has been kind of languishing in obscurity since its release. This has never had a release on video or DVD. So this Blu-ray is pretty notable. I believe this was released earlier in the year by Kino, maybe in one of the film noir box sets. And this was screened on UK television for the first time this year. So it's crazy. And in that sense, I kind of almost feel like this is, in a sense, worthy. I say worthy, but of the 300th spine number, because it's kind of, I really appreciate and support films that have maybe just been overlooked or brushed under the carpet or haven't been given its proper release, its proper due. Getting a release like this. There's an hour of new extras on here. There's a new interview with film historian Sheldon Hall, which was very good. I really enjoyed that. Talks about it's called From Argentina to Hollywood. Talks about Hugo Fregonese's career. No Escape, The Nihilism of Black Tuesday, 1950s Film Noir by Imogen Sarah Smith. I enjoyed that one very much too. And talks more about the film noir genre and kind of, again, the nihilism in Black Tuesday. It's all there on the title. And then there's also a new interview with critic Asan Koshbakt. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name. Theatrical trailer, a booklet as well with essays as well with from Barry Forshaw and Craig Ian Mann. And then the commentary from Sergio Angelini. And then you have the film with a 2K scan. I will say about the transfer, it gets very soft. And you'll find this in old films where there's a transition where you crossfade from one scene to the next or one reel of film to the next. It's a different shot, and the quality drops. And you could kind of notice it on DVD. You could really notice it on Blu-ray, and 4K. It's like everywhere. But on Blu-ray, you can really tell when the quality drops and that's for me is like, oh, we're about to crossfade into something else or fade out or an optical effect is about something like that. But there are kind of long stretches where maybe it goes on for like a minute and the footage to transfer looks pretty soft and the grain seems to have kind of gone almost, and then it comes back again. So that's really the limitations of the source, but there are some really great grainy kind of beautifully restored images in this film. And it's a weird one because, and he mentions it in the commentary, Sergio, that you have some outdoor location stuff in the film which is all very like normal, ordinary, perfunctory scenes. And then the stuff where all the tension is happening and the characters are blowing up is on sets, and the lighting is like impressionistic, and it's film noir and it's other influences, and there's like these deep shadows, and especially in the opening act with the bars and the prison and everything. But there is this prison break, and then there's this kind of high pressure situation with hostages, and then money needs to be retrieved, but they're all on the run, and it's a really good film. I really enjoyed it. I didn't love it, but it was, and the commentary made me appreciate it more, I have to say. and I enjoyed hearing more about Edward G. Robinson in general and how he was kind of blacklisted in the 50s, and then also hearing about the career of Hugo Fregonese. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm going to do a full review of it and go through all the extras in depth and kind of show you some clips from the film and stuff. But I wanted to jump on and just talk about this and mark the occasion of Spine number 300. It's a very, very good film. And I do enjoy a good film noir. And Edward G. Robinson was, I mean, he's the star of the show, obviously. There's some really good performances otherwise, though. But he's very much the kind of cackling, dastardly kind of shit heel that, is just so much fun to watch at times. And you do kind of get drawn into that weird kind of psychological thing where it's like you want the bad guys to get away with it because you're kind of in for the ride, even though they're inherently bad people, or at least Kennelly is an inherently bad person, and kind of irredeemable as well. But quite a bleak film, but one I enjoyed very much. And again, I think my appreciation of it was enhanced somewhat by the commentary and the extras. And I'm looking forward to kind of doing a deeper dive with a full Blu-ray review of sorts. By which point I will probably talk about a lot of the same things, but I'll go into more detail about the film itself, more detail on the extras, and obviously showing you some more of the package. And I really like that you have this nice new artwork, which is very, again, just keeping it simple, minimal. I like it. But on the inside, you actually get, which I really appreciate, some original artwork here, which is cool. I'll kind of show you that up close. But you actually get a third option as well. And I guess I just see it through the case. I already have the disc still in my player. So you can swap that one out, and it has all the same markings with the Eureka thing and everything. So you could this is just an alternate cover. I really like that one. I'll probably swap that one out, actually. So yeah, there's the man himself. Very, very cool. Great release, as always. I'm always in the bag for Eureka stuff. I feel like the quality of their releases in the past couple of years has just been top notch. And this one is certainly in line with all of that. But yeah, not a film I absolutely loved. It would always be great to love the film even more. But it is one I very much enjoyed. And I enjoyed the background on it. And just getting a peek into a different time in history when it comes to the censorship issues with this film. I mean, it's only 80 minutes long. And so to have 10 minutes cut from that, it just feels like the film shouldn't even exist at that point. And apparently, well, not apparently, it's literally quoted. The BBFC was saying they feel like the film was a lot more in line with, how things should be. And it's like, well, fuck you, no, that's not how it should be, because that's not the film that they wanted to make, or they set out to make, or that they made, Yeah, and it was actually banned in like a certain state as well for being just like morally reprehensible. It's just weird. Anyway, Black Tuesday, very good film. Let me know if you picked it up, if you've seen it, what you think of it. If you enjoyed it more than I did perhaps. But until the next one, well, I'll dive deeper on this one. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.